Good evening, Council and Mayor. So, in your packet for this meeting is the proposed FY 26-27 budget. It was prepared in accordance with the Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act. The recommended budget in that packet reflects the priorities, discussions, and direction that was provided by Council during the budget workshop, which was held back in mid-April. So we took the feedback and suggestions from that session, and along with our revenue projections, expenditure needs, and capital planning, it's all built into this budget packet. So the budget is balanced for both the general and enterprise fund as required by state statute, and it continues to focus on the maintaining core services, addressing capital infrastructure needs, and ensuring long-term financial sustainability. So what we'll do is we'll just we're not going to get into the very details of everything, but we're going to kind of take a bird's eye view of the budget itself. So a couple slides here. So overall, with the two funds combined, the general fund and the water and sewer fund, or which we call our enterprise fund, got about a $17 million budget, split out 8.9 general, 8.1 water and sewer. And this includes both operating and capital within that number. So we'll talk about the general fund first. As we know, it includes public safety, which is your fire and police, public works, parks and rec, planning, community affairs and tourism, and administration. So if you recall at the budget workshop, we spoke about how are we going to bring in more revenues that are needed, especially with a big public safety project coming up. So our current tax rate is 41.5 cents. Last year, Council had implemented the financial model with First Tryon, so this is our first year going through that process with them. They were at that budget workshop and presented the model itself. So I won't go into all those details today, but what the model, in summary, what the model has shown us is that our 41.5 cent is not sustainable with the needs and the projects that we have on the horizon in order to maintain the same level of services that citizens know of at this current time. So what was needed with the 41.5 cent is more revenue to come in. What we did was introduce a fire district tax at that budget workshop of a 13-cent fire district tax. So you got 41.5 cent ad valorem and then a 13-cent fire district tax, and that's kind of what we're looking at right here. That puts you, if you combine those two together, that puts you at a 54.5 cent tax rate, effective tax rate. Okay. So why is that number significant for this purpose? Well, this graph here shows what the 54.5 cent has been like over the almost the past decade. So the fiscal year, starting in fiscal year 24 budget, it dropped slightly, and then the last 2 years, it dropped by 10 cents off of that FY 24. What this fire district tax would do is it would keep the ad valorem tax the same at 41.5, but then you see in this orange, you can't see my mouse there, but at the far top right, the orange, that represents the 13-cent fire district tax. So it would reset the effective tax rate back to 54.5 cent, which is where we were as we were looking at the public safety building project itself in particular, that as the valuations of properties increased, maintaining that 54.5 cent was going to be able to pay for that building. When we went down to a revenue neutral rate, then the ability to pay for that kind of went away. So resetting the tax rate back to where it was puts you more in line with how the valuations were actually playing out in that scenario. Any questions on this so far? Okay, I just wanted to highlight that because that's probably the biggest change in our budget this year. So you take, and there might be some confusion out in the community right now of what exactly the tax rate increase is looking like. But we want to clarify, it's 41.5 cent ad valorem plus a 13-cent fire district. So there's nothing being added to the ad valorem rate. It's going to stay the same where it was. Okay.
Bo, did we have any fire tax before we put the 13 cents on here?
No, this is something new.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Any other questions? Okay. So jump over to water and sewer fund again. We're just looking at high level here. So we just talked about a little over $8 million between capital and operating for our water and sewer fund. Just a reminder, what does this water and sewer fund pay for? It's got 164 lines of water that it maintains, in addition to 84 miles of sewer lines that we have to maintain. On top of that, we've got two huge facilities between the water plant and the wastewater plant. So all of these expenses, capital and operating, are all supported through the sale of water and sewer rates. So no general fund, no tax money supports this operation. This is all ran like a business. Remember, general fund deals with taxes. This is sales of services. So rates are to cover rising costs, maintaining our infrastructure, and the big one that kind of gets overlooked sometimes is the regulatory requirements that we have to meet. Those requirements themselves cost money through permitting, but also the ability to meet those requirements costs as well. So those are things that we have to do in order to maintain clean drinking water and to put discharge clean water back into the river. So what we talked about at the workshop was a 7% increase in water and sewer for all customer classes, just straight across the board. And something to think about too, and I tried to put this in perspective and give you an example, and I left my note on my desk, so I'm going to go off of memory here. But if you think of something that everybody can relate to is Duke Energy. We've heard a lot in the news about their rate structure. But our water plant uses 3.4 million kilowatt hours of energy in a year. And you think about the average home uses about 20,000 kilowatt hours. So that's 170 times the amount of average home uses. And that relates to a $325,000 ticket of how much our electric usage is just at the water plant alone. So when we hear double-digit rate increases on electric, our 7% is not covering that. And you can take a dollar for dollar perspective there. So just put that in perspective. We face charge increase in rates just like everyone else does. And so we try our best to keep those rates as low as possible, but things do increase outside of our control. But I thought that was pretty staggering that it's it costs us over $300,000 a year in electric just to run the water plant. Okay, that's pretty much all I had to present for the budget, and then answer any questions you might have.
So while you were on water and sewer, I know the 7% is this year, but could you let everyone know how many more years we are looking at a 7% increase in the water?
So like I said, we're trying to keep it as flat and, I would say, don't say flat, but as consistent as possible. We don't want to have a huge spike years and then come down, and then no rate increases, but then huge rate increases. So we're trying to maintain a 7% rate for the next couple of years as our goal.
And just curious, I know we discussed this in the budget workshop, and it was open to everyone, so I can let them know about this. As far as the fluoride tank that we're getting ready to do, if we did not do the fluoride tank, would we be looking at a 7% hike every single year for the next few? Because that's what I'm understanding, is if we didn't go with the fluoride tank, which there are other ways to get fluoride. I've actually received more calls saying, please take, people didn't know we had fluoride in the water, and they're like, we're gonna go get filters to get the fluoride out. And now we have a whole group of people who are like, oh, we can't get fluoride out of the water because you can't filter it out. So I'm receiving more calls about that now. So I'm just curious, if we did not do, and I think I'd asked this at the last meeting, if we could see what we would be looking at if we did take fluoride out of our water. Like, what would the rates look like at that point?
Yeah, and so we did talk about this at the budget workshop. We didn't really look at future years, but for this year in particular, water rates for residential only, we could leave flat at 0% this year, if we were to remove the fluoride. But what this does with the 7% for residential is retains that fluoride.
I'll also add that 7% is actually below the average in the state right now for water and sewer rates. Some of our neighbors are going double digits this year.
Bo, have we ever looked into solar for, I know that you were talking about the electricity that's used, excuse me, out at the water treatment plants. Have we ever looked into that option?
Not in particular. There would be a lot of regulatory things we'd have to get through to do that, mainly because we have to make sure we've got reliable system for the keeping the water clean and producing water. So there will be a lot of expense going into that. But that, I mean, if that's something council would like to look into, we can look into that.
I mean, I just know we have solar, so I know if you have solar, you have a backup of a generator that would still work. I know that they have a generator out there, but just an option that I didn't know if we could potentially think about that, just because it is such a large expense each year.
Sure.
Would there possibly be grants available for solar?
Can I jump in? I know a little bit about this. Solar at a residential home is a lot different than solar at a commercial facility like this. And when I talk about solar and everything, I think of it as like a VCR, okay? When VCRs first came out, it was really, really expensive, and they was bulky, and they wasn't that great. And now we download our TVs, our movie from our cell phones. The technology got so much better. It's so much more reliable. Same thing with solar. Eventually, we will get there for commercial applications. But the investment to get there, I don't think we're there yet. I think you're actually in this level of trying to produce this many kilowatt hours. I think the investment to get there would be ate up. Any savings we would recognize would be eat up by the investment that we'd have to put in there to get to that many kilowatt hours. Do I think in a couple years, 5, 10, 15 years, we'll get there? Absolutely. I just don't think we're there today. And the grants that you're talking about, I don't know of any in the state that goes for municipal water uses. Most of them are for your smaller commercial applications that I've seen. And the only reason I know that is because we dealt with a lot of solar in a couple projects I was on not too long ago. And we was on one of the largest solar fields in the state at one time. But we will get there. It's just, I don't think it's there today. So we can research it and we can bring all that back, but I just don't want to give anybody any false hope that I don't think that's the answer today. It may be in a few years. I just don't know if it's there today.
When we begin selling water to the city of Lenoir, will that have an impact on our water prices? Will that allow us to show some decrease in water prices?
That is the goal. Of course, we don't know yet how much they're going to be using. The minimum they will be using won't move the needle too much, but hopefully the goal is to, yes, that would tremendously help. If they became a full user, then that would definitely help with our rates. So we're doing everything we can to minimize how much our residential rates are getting hit and our industrial. But some of these things do take a number of years to get off the ground. So, But there, you know, it is a good, bright hope that happens.
Can you remind us one more time, I know you did this at the last meeting or maybe at the budget meeting, just the timeline for Lenore again? It's not this fiscal year, we're looking into like 28 time
Right.
period
Yeah,
before
it's at
that
least-
even gets.
At least one, possibly 2 to 3 more fiscal
Okay.
years, yeah.
I would also like to add one more thing for the people in the audience and the people watching at home. Our plant is permitted for 12 million gallons a day. That's what the plant was built back when we had a lot of textiles and a lot of industry going. Today, we're significantly less than that. I think some days we're 2, during the week we're around 3.5, is that correct?
Correct.
But on the back end, we still have to maintain a 12 million gallon a day plant. The pumps are set up for that, the infrastructure is set up for that. And so instead of paying the overhead, selling 8 to 10 million gallons a day like we did in the, 80s, 70s, 80s and 90s, maybe even early 2000s, we're having to pay for the same infrastructure on 2.5 to 3.5 million gallons a day.
That makes sense.
And so that's a fixed cost that we have to cover, that we have no choice. And it's not like we can just downsize the size of the pumps at the plant. When we all took a tour of the plant, you saw those huge pumps. They're there, they've been there since the plant was built. There's no way to downsize all that stuff. So we still have to maintain that level of infrastructure on a much lower quantity of sales, if that makes. Also, industries, like everybody else, has gotten a lot more efficient on the water uses. So the industries we still have here today use less water than they did 10 and 15, 20 years ago. It's just like in your home, if you have an old shower head, it was much more pressure, much more water. You buy one now, I think the maximum is 1.5 gallons a minute that you can get out. All those things don't sound like a lot, but when you multiply it out over 14,000 people, that adds up to less water being sold.
I'm just curious about this, because I've got the paper here from the, if we rate, I hate to keep going back to this, but I'm just curious. It does say, like on this, and this is why I was curious about the 7%, because it does show it going up 7% until, it looks like fiscal year 2036. And it shows us that it keeps going up 7%, which may not seem like a lot to some, but to others, that is quite significant when you look at, ours could be 79, and that's for 3,000 gallons at $79 by that point, which everybody thinks we'll be making more money, but the fact of the matter is most of us don't get raises every year. So you're looking at, the people in tribal community, are they gonna be okay constantly saying, and I know that we say they have no choice, but I hate to say that about them, because I would be looking for ways to do something else. But if it's going up 7% every year, you've got people with families who are they're paying $200 and some, and with Duke Energy being an issue too, you've got the electric going up, you've got water going up, you're looking at possible taxes going up. That's a triple whammy constantly for people right now, that I just think, if we need to hold some type of public forum and make sure people are okay with us keeping fluoride or not. I think we could even hold off for a year and decide that next year. It's 25% effective, usually, the fluoride is. And there's other ways to get it. Now, I know it's important in children. They do say that, they do tell us that, but it's, that's what they say. But then there are people who are concerned about the dangers of it. So it's something to look into. I do feel like the public needs a little bit more input than us bringing it up in one meeting, say we're taking it out, and then coming back and saying we're putting it in. And on top of that, we're gonna charge you 7% more every year until at least 2000. I mean, that's what I got from that paper when I saw it, was until 2036, it will continue to go up 7%. So that's why I was asking that question. I just feel like it needs a little bit more input, in my humble opinion, but.
So the 7% in following years, it isn't related, tied to the fluoride at all. That would just be for the immediate year. I just want to make sure.
I was curious. I mean, it says like retain, it's just how it looks like
Right,
on here, because
right.
it says retain the fluoride system, it goes
Yeah.
up 7%. So that's what, I said, you know, I took it, that it's gonna keep on going up 7%, and that's what I thought I heard in the meeting, is it was gonna go up for the next few.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I was the only one who heard that, or maybe I was, but that's the way I took it.
You wanna take it or?
Go ahead.
I think 7% is just a projection of worst case scenario. Basically, that's what we're getting hit. We're getting hit with more than that. The materials, the cost of doing business. I mean, I think I've used this example several times. A water meter, and Alan's not here right now. I want to say a water meter used to be like $209. It's over $1,000, and we're not talking $209 in 1985. We're talking about $209 5 years ago, and now they're over $1,000. We can't eat that. Our system would go bankrupt. We are operating on the thinnest margin that we've ever operated on, as long as we go back and find records. So I know it's increased, but everything going up affects this. And the only people that buy the materials that we buy at the water plant are water providers. It's not, so it's proprietary, help me with that word. Yes, equipment, and they can charge whatever they want. I think Bo used the example of the plastic nut. I mean, literally, it was a plastic nut about, big enough you can hold in your hand. You look at it, you're like, that thing can't cost more than $25, $30. It was
A little over $12,000.
$12,000.
I
And
think
can't-
that's where I get concerned, is is the sky the limit with what I just want us to start looking at things now, because I wanna know, is the sky the limit for what we keep charging every year up on anything?
Right.
And I wanna make sure we're doing whatever, and I'm asking hard questions because I wanna make sure we are doing everything possible to keep things where our citizens can live and survive
Yeah.
in our town.
And that's why, there's a lot of things regulatorily that we have to meet. And that's why we had presented the idea of the fluoride at that time, because that's not something that's required by the state. And it was something that would cut those costs a little bit. So that was something we had identified that would save a little bit of money. A lot of things that we deal with, though, in the water and sewer system is regulated by the state, and we
Yeah.
have to meet their certain testing parameters, and a lot of the chemicals that go into that have to. So, like I said, we are looking everywhere to cut for things that are not required. So that's why that had come up in the past. But as far as the 10-year table you were talking about there, so the percentages are slightly different whether you retain fluoride or you don't. But I think it's like 6 to 7% different, 6 or 7%. If you retain, it's 7. If you get rid of it, I think next year was 6%. But this year would be the biggest impact where you go to 0. So it wouldn't be 0 for the next 5 or 6 years.
I mean, I can expect it to go up
Okay.
some, it's just when you tell people it's going up 7%
Yeah.
then that's what it looked like, and that's what I believe I heard and some other things, but, I just wanted to make sure that we're doing whatever is possible to, because not everyone's as fortunate as some others, so that's how it goes.
We were very conscious of that.
Bo, could you explain to the council the revenue to the expense ratio that she's alluding to? Because there's a chart that shows like 10 years out, projected out. We have to stay above a 50%, correct, ratio?
You mean the fund balance?
Yeah, the fund balance.
Yeah, so
So you can see that chart kind of beginning to tail off in in year 10. So something has to give between here and that projection. So if you could explain to the council a little bit, and how, just to make sure that they understand that.
and it is why we call it projection, because we don't know year to year exactly what it's going to be. So when we say year 2030 is going to be going up 7%, that most likely is going to change. That's our best projection at this point in time. So as things like Lenore might come online, things like that really move the needle to help. Maybe we could bring another industry in town. Things like that will help spread those costs out so that the rates aren't as high. Is that answering your question?
Well, a little bit, because, I mean, the chart kind of displayed the revenue to expense ratio, and we're like 82%, and then it kind of just begins to tail off a little bit at year 10. But we needed to stay above that 50% on the,
Yeah, you talking about general fund?
yes, no,
Oh,
the
okay.
the water fund.
Okay. The one that McGill presented?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Trying to think, I think it's in here, hold on. So everybody sees what you're
So
talking
we have
about.
to keep enough money in case we have major breakdowns at the plant. We have the funds available to, that's the chart I think you're talking about.
Yes.
If one of those pumps go out, I mean, those are multi-million-dollar pumps. So we gotta have enough money to replace those if they go out. Or if we have, God forbid, another Helene type industry and we lose, portion of our system. Or we have a bad drought and we have to spend, $750 to $1 million to extend the raw water intake because I believe our raw water intake's only like 8.5 feet deep. So if we have to extend that out and put a pump out there, that could easily reach 7 figures. So we have to keep money in the fund balance to cover those items, because when those things happen, it's not just Valdese that gets hit, it's the entire region, and there's no way for the state to come in and bail out, 29, 30 water systems at the same time. So we have to keep money back in case that happens. I wasn't here for Helene, but from what I've gathered, we had several issues that happened, but we had reserves and we was back online as quick as anybody in the region.
Mhm.
And that was the reason why, is because we had those reserves sitting there.
Thank you.
So, yeah, this chart the mayor was speaking about, this shows the overall cost requirements to run the system, and that it projects over a 10-year period, but I would just look at, the next 4 to 5 years. So what these bars represent is all your expenses between capital improvements, that's, redoing your lines, making improvements at the plants, debt service, and operating expenses. So if we were to keep, say we just kept rates just flat, 0%, that dashed line going from left to right, revenues will stay steady, but you see our expenses creep up every year. And that's because of the aging infrastructure that we have and the investments that we have to make into that. So that's why we have to keep up with that. I wouldn't call it, part of it's inflation, but also investment into your system as well. Yeah, trust me, if I could find a way to keep rates flat so we wouldn't have to have these conversations, I would.
I think people we need to be looking into is not the municipalities, but the people who make the items for the municipalities, but, there's just a lot of information that I feel like need to be questioned, because we had a budget workshop, but that was not, live streamed. So there's a lot of information that folks aren't getting, so it really helps for us to ask a lot of questions tonight, so folks know what is happening and know that we are asking questions. Because my job is to represent the people, not just my ward, but the town. So when they approach me, I want to make sure I'm asking the questions that need to be asked, so.
Absolutely. And my door's always open as well if anybody wants to.
I just want to
ask
make sure
more.
the people out there know it. And a lot of times they won't come to you guys, but they come to us quite often.
Sure. Anything else?
I think, explain about the 13-cent fire district tax, since it is brand new. Explain how that works and what all it's going to go to.
Okay. So, fire district tax is not something that is a new concept in local government. Usually you see the counties have a fire district tax that they use. So this is a similar concept. You're taxing, in this case, our fire district is our entire Valdese taxing district. What this does is it identifies a certain set of revenue, and I'm gonna bring that up here in a second for you. But it, you know, ad valorem tax can be used on anything that's general fund related. What the fire district tax does is identifies a certain amount of money that's used for fire department purposes only. I'm sorry, I'm trying to. So right here, you can see on mouse. We have our ad valorem tax of 2.3 million, and then right below that is the fire district tax, 742. So when we do the budget ordinance adoption at the next meeting, what that budget ordinance is gonna outline is you've got this amount of ad valorem tax, but below that is your fire district tax that is used on fire operations solely. So the fire department budget is, I think it's like 1.2 million in total. So this doesn't cover all of their operations, but what it does is it helps alleviate some of those operations. And in addition, the goal is to open up some room for public safety in the near future.
It also gives elected boards the flexibility to change that rate as we pay down the building. Our payment will decrease. And all things being equal, if we have, you know, some success stories, it gives this council or future councils the ability to adjust that fire rate tax accordingly without touching the ad valorem tax rate. It gives us options at the end of the day.
Bo, in the general funds budget, we have got the funds earmarked for the cost for the new dome, the bubble, the pool bubble. I think that was built into the rec center's budget. Have we explored, or we're going to explore possibly a way to maybe make that less expensive going forward? Or, I mean, there is money there to put it back up when we take it down here next week or whatever.
Yes.
Can you address that?
That's an ongoing dilemma we have. The money is in there for what we know is gonna cost to do it. Obviously, we'd like to do it at a less expensive cost. I don't know, you know, you wanna comment on that, or?
Right now, 30, is it 30 or 35? We have the
It's
budget.
like 30 and 32, 30 to take it down, 32 to put it up.
Yeah, so there's $62,000 in this budget to take the dome down and put it back up. We are looking and researching, not just with the pool, not just with the dome. We're looking at every rock we can find to see where we can save money. And so that's one of the areas that we're looking at. If come August, September, October, well, hopefully before then, we'll have a better picture. But it would be something the council would need to discuss, whether we move forward with the contractor we have, or if we try to outsource it to a different contractor. I don't know if we have a whole lot of options when it comes to putting the pool bubble up and taking it down. There's only so many companies that'd be willing to do something like that.
What we need
Which,
to,
you know, supply and demand, when there's only one or two companies that'll do it, it's typically more expensive than what you think it would be.
and the last thing we wanna do is to get any damage done to it, so whoever we hire to do it, they need to make sure they're taking good care of it. And why the manufacturer who is currently built in the budget to do that work, we've got them, you know, their quotes to do it, because obviously they're gonna take care of it, they're the ones that built it. But if we can find a cheaper alternative that's gonna be just as safe for the dome materials, then that would be a good solution.
And sometimes I wish and I think I've said this before, I really wish there was a way that, we get like a brush over of line items. You get like this department, and you get like administration, you get the different things, but, I mean, the pool dome is obviously one that everybody knew about because everybody's heard about it, it's been in the public spotlight. But are there other things that we are spending money on that the council needs to look at and say, we could probably do without that? It is a service that we have maybe provided in the past, not even a service, but a fun little thing to do, but it's really not doing anything for our town, and we need to think out of the box a little more and say, what needs to be cut a little bit to even make it to where we're not even doing, you know, to help. I'm telling you, I will always be on the side of the people, and because I did walk, I go back to this all the time, I did walk the streets, I talked to the people, and it's a lot to expect them. The one question I had is, are y'all gonna raise taxes again? And I said, I don't want to. I know it's gonna be necessary to get the building, the public safety building built, but do we have to raise, I know we're saying fire tax, and you can tie that up in a pretty bow all you want to, but the fact of the matter is, we are still raising taxes on our people. And so is there any like happy medium where we can look and say, we've done this, but is it actually bringing revenue into our town? Is this actually something that maybe a private individual could sponsor? Is this something one of our businesses could sponsor that would bring just as many people into the town, but we're not having to look and go, oh gosh, we're gonna charge 100% of the people for this, where only maybe 10% of the town is benefiting from it. Those are questions that I have. I wish we could see more in depth, how much we're spending on, different departments. I love the little dollar bill that you did and I haven't seen that online yet, I'm waiting on it. But there was a dollar bill we saw in the budget workshop that broke down how much goes to each department. I wanna know, where's that money going? What are we doing? Are there things that we can cut to maybe, and I know it wouldn't seem like a lot, but it is when someone's house is worth, $500,000, a penny or two can definitely help with the taxes. So I'm just encouraging, but please ask your questions tonight, because this is the last chance we have to really make sure everything is being looked at.
Well, I think we have looked at everything. I think it all comes down to priorities and what people in Valdese and taxpayers are willing to spend money on. We have things here in Valdese that no one else has, but it's part of our community and it makes us up who we are. I'm gonna pick on David a little bit right here. We have a bowling alley. I think we're one of the only cities on the east of Mississippi that has a bowling alley, and probably one of less than 10 in the country. Am I fair in saying that? I'm just using that for an example. But there's people in this town who expect us to have that because we've had it forever. We have cut, not we, I shouldn't say that. Bo, before I was hired, and the staff has cut this budget at Town of Valdese. There's not much meat left on that bone. We're down to it now. I loved using this example, and Jessica may get mad. She needed new ink for her printer. That was a 2-hour process for Bo to find money to buy ink for the human resource officer's printer. That's where we're at today, folks.
Then we need to look at things a little further, like, do we need, and I hate to say this, I love the fact that we do all the programs and things we do, but I brought this up in the budget meeting. If we're looking at next year not doing the fireworks on the 4th of July because it's not a Friday night, just don't have fireworks. That's not a 4th of July celebration. That's a glorified, let's get down street and party. There are things like our concerts even, do we need those? If she's not got the ink she needs, then God forbid that we're spending money on things that 10% of our people enjoy, but we bring in other people who just, it's at the expense of people who, over 50% of the town really don't care about those things. They just want to be able to eat and pay for their medication at this point. And I know it's some hard decisions that we're gonna have to make, but it really matters. And that's horrible. Mm-hmm. But there are things that we do because we think people want them, but we're a town of 5,000 people. And I just think it deserves a little more digging and saying, do we have to do that still? Can we cut back on that or the expense of that? Because yeah, it's all well and good, But in the end, if we can't pay for things that are basic necessities, if we can't give our police officers the raises without killing our citizens, it just seems like our priorities are way out of whack in our town, and it concerns me.
And at the end of the day, it's council's budget. Council can do with this budget whatever they want. We make recommendations. We did cut, out a lot of things that the town has historically done. The Friday nights, I think we cut them back. I think we went from 16 to 4 a month to 1 a month. Is that, now we're gonna have a little bit nicer, I shouldn't say nicer, we're gonna have a little bit more expensive of an act.
So is that gonna balance that? I guess those are things I look at. So is the price gonna end up being the same even
No,
though
we're
we
gonna
do
save
that?
we're
Or,
gonna save some money. But I mean, in local government, we use the term stacking money. So if we find $500 here and $1,000 here and $700 here, you stack it up and you can start seeing some movement. There's not a whole lot left. We've gotten to the point now, if you wanna make significant changes and really move the budget without having a tax increase, you're talking about departmental, you're talking about changing the way we operate totally and doing away with departments. I mean, I don't know how.
can we make sure at least, like, if people
And I
want,
don't think that's-
want things that they're actually paying for themselves? Is every department at this point, are all the programs, are they paying for themselves? Or how do we make them run more efficiently so they come
There's very few
closer?
programs that we offer that pay for themselves. I mean, you can't charge for fire, you can't charge.
I mean,
for-
well, obviously, and
You
that's
can't
a whole
charge for-
different,
I mean,
yeah.
planning has fees, but it doesn't cover the cost of
I mean,
planning.
that's understandable. I
mean,
think it goes back to.
Recreation's the same way. You're never gonna charge enough for kids softball and baseball to pay for what it costs, or the pool to pay for what it costs to perform it. I mean, most of the times, if you can do it and make money, the private sector runs it. And local government is set up to run as most efficient as we can, with the understanding that there's very few things we do that actually make a profit. In general fund, now, the enterprise fund's a little different, but in general fund, the things we offer, there's not too many opportunities to recoup what it costs to do. So then we gotta decide, well, what of those services do we wanna offer at that point? And historically, Valdese has offered a lot of stuff. I've heard it since I've been here, and I'm not gonna say the other cities, but, well, Valdese charges this and City X charges that. Well, City X has 2 employees and they don't they don't offer any services. We offer just about every service a municipality can offer. There's a cost associated with that.
And unfortunately, a lot of that started when we had a lot more industry, and
Yeah.
now we're having to keep up those
That's
services.
exactly right.
And we may want to look and say, okay, at what point do we say, is it worth it to keep those services? It's just something for the council to think about, because going up 7% and I know it said, we're being told that we have to do it, but going up 7% on water, going up this amount on taxes it's not gonna be easy for a lot of people. So, not just easy, there's some people who are not gonna be able to do it. So I just think we need to really, in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, be talking to everyone, asking questions and making sure. Cause we've gotta do right by the people who put us in here, because they elected us to represent them for a reason, so.
And,
Yes, ma'am.
and when we had our small group sessions with council, we did get into the nitty gritty of what you know, we really dug down into what is in this budget that could possibly be cut to avoid any kind of tax increase or a smaller tax increase. Like Todd said, anything to move the needle is gonna take a significant cut, significant culture change for Valdese. Is it doable? Yes. Is it desirable? No. So, but I just want to remind council that we did dig into that, some of y'all remember.
And that's what we need the citizens to hear, is if you want to see this, this is what you have to, so they need to show up and speak up or do what needs to be done. There's questions that we have to ask to make sure it's getting out to the citizens, so.
So just piggybacking off of that, for the fire tax, you know, I know that it's a line item that we're saying it's not taxes for the citizens, on a regular tax base. But if we raise that, are we gonna be able to pay for ink for Jessica? Do you see what I'm saying? Because we're
Yeah.
saying it's a fire tax, so we're gonna have a public safety building, and I think that that's where we're having a lot of confusion in town, where everybody's saying, well, all this money is going to a public safety building, which I know everybody agrees that we need. However, people are, now they're hearing that we don't have enough money for administration. So what is, where's the needle at? Are we gonna have enough money, to pay for the items that we need, as well as have a public safety building?
Yeah, so when you bring in extra revenue like that, it gives you a chance to shift some things around. So you replace that money in the fire department, and that money in the fire department now gets to be spread out across other departments to help with little things like that.
I will say this, I want to say this is either my 21st or 22nd budget, I can't remember. This is the first time in my career I've ever recommended a tax increase. It's not something I do lightly. It's not something that me or Bo wants to do. Me and Bo talk about it quite frequently. It'd be so nice if we could walk in here and say, yeah, we're gonna cut taxes 10 cents and we're not going up on water and sewer. But unfortunately, the things that we are facing as a group, as a town, and the bills that we're getting, it's just not something that we can swallow. I think our fuel cost last month or last quarter was over $10,000 more than what it was before. That's just one line item that's went up. And then fuel going up affects everything we touch. So everything's going up, I don't know how many line items we got, but I'd say we probably have 15 to 2,000. If every one of those goes up 2%, that's significant money that we have to find. So I commend the staff, the department heads. There are some department heads, Marissa's one of them, David, Truman, Michael, they all jumped in and realized what we was facing, and we all worked together really good to come up with what was presented. And it was tough. It was one of the toughest budgets I've ever been a part of. But we got there. Now, it relies on this board whether or not you want to accept that or if you want to change it. And that's the way the law works. Y'all have that ability. But those decisions carry significant effects if you do decide to make deeper cuts. We're not talking about cutting out, small stuff. We're talking about significant cuts at that point, which the short time I've been here, I don't think the majority of Valdese wants to see. Or after it happens, would be happy about it.
If we do continue to see fuel costs go up and everything, electricity, everything else go up, we do need to go ahead and prepare people for the fact that in the next little bit, we may have to see some cuts in departments. I don't think we can live in a fairy tale world where we're okay with just raising taxes until we're infilled. They have like a 91, I think it's like a 91 cent ad valorem tax. I don't want to go there. But I do know in smaller towns, we do have to deal with higher taxes because we try to do a lot with the amount of people we have. But I do want to say, we just need to kind of prepare everyone that if things do keep going up that we can't control, we're gonna have to make some tough decisions. So,
Would it be helpful, Bo, to show the dollar bill, graphic that you had? I don't know if you've got that in that slide deck, and if you don't, that's okay, but just to speak to that for a moment, just to.
Yeah, I'm trying to think where I've got it at to get to.
Exhibit 6 is what I thought.
Maybe this one here. If it'll cooperate. was gonna get us something.
It's in
Yeah, it is in the minutes too.
If you open up the agenda, I think they want to see it on the screen so that
I just thought that might be helpful to
the people at home can see it.
see.
Do you have your agenda open up?
It's not in this agenda, is it?
Sorry, I don't think it would be.
Get something. Okay. There you go. That's what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay. You have to remind me of the question, I'm sorry.
I just thought that was helpful. I think we alluded to it earlier, how you could see, you know, where, how the departments, where the money's broken
Yeah.
down by department.
But yeah, so, usually your police department is your largest user
In
of
every
public
city.
dollars. Yeah, that's a common thing. But if you look at what's, towards the middle, fire's in the middle, then you got Parks and Rec, community tourism. A lot of those are, the services that we offer that like Todd was saying, a lot of towns don't offer, such as bowling or swimming pool or tourism itself. So not trying to pick on those departments, but those are luxury items that Valdese citizens do have.
And I think most citizens appreciate them as well.
Yeah, and that's why we try our hardest to keep it in there. So this, we showed this at the budget workshop, but the value of a penny is 61,506. How many pennies do you guess it would take to run each department? So the total of all these pennies here on the screen, I think was like $1.30, something like that. So we had no other revenues coming in, no other, ad valorem taxes, the fire tax, things like that. It would take $1.31 in taxes to equal the services that this budget's providing. So it kind of puts it in perspective for you. Okay.
You good? Good? Thanks, Bo.
Okay.
At this time, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Budget meeting is adjourned.